Guys, good afternoon. How are you doing? Matt Goldberg here from Surplus Trader Secrets, coming live in the six-figure surplus inventory flipping secrets group. How are you doing, everyone? You all right? So what I'm doing today is I'm doing a live, and I'm hands-free as well. I'm just testing out this little bit of technology. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you can. Hopefully it's crystal clear and you can hear me all well. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking today about what is better, the liquidation pallets retail returns industry or the inventory flipping business that I'm involved in. Okay. Big subject actually, because I've been studying the retailer returns industry, the liquidation pallet industry. I've been studying that actually quite deeply the last few months. I've been hanging out in a lot of group liquidation pallet groups on Facebook. There's loads and loads of these liquidation pallet groups. So that industry is just massive, huge. Everyone's involved. Every man and his dog is involved in buying and selling liquidation pallets. I'm getting into conversations with so many people who are buying and selling pallets of store returns, retailer returns, you know. And the thing is with that industry now, there's so many returns coming back from into the retailers. I read some data the other day, something like 25% of goods that go out of Amazon, 25% of them are actually returned back from customers. So you can imagine all these returns coming back. What's happening with all these returns is that these retailers, and especially in America, you've got like Walmart, you've got Wayfair, you've got Target, Macy's, all the huge retailers. What they do is they sell these pallets. It's like mixed pallets. So when these returns come back from customers, they build these pallets up, mixed pallets. So you might get in different categories. So you might get electrical goods in a mixed pallet of electrical goods, and their returns. So they're basically stuff like, someone's returned it because they might not like it, or they might not be able to get it to work, or they might have buyer's remorse, so they just decide they don't want it anymore, so they send it back. And then you've got the main part of the returns business is, damaged boxes. The item might be damaged inside, the item might have parts missing, and so there's different levels of returns. Now in America, most people involved in buying and selling, like I do, they're involved in buying and selling liquidation pallets, which is these retailer store returns. And it's huge. And that's what all these guys are doing. If you go into these liquidation pallet groups, all they're doing is they're buying and selling these retailer returns. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up now. I'm not in that industry. I don't like it. I don't like that industry at all. I think it's very time consuming. Can be costly. Very risky. You can end up buying a load of crap. You're handling goods, you're handling physical goods, you're tying money up in goods, you're selling one at a time, I'm going to go into detail anyway now, guys. So, on why, what is better. Now, I'll tell you now straight away up front. I know my industry is a lot better because it's more time effective. It's more cost effective. Long term, it's way more profitable. Way less risky and easier. Because it's all done online, and it's just something that I'm not mad on return stocks. Having said that, I have dealt with return stocks before, but what I've done is I've just moved it on, like I do with the deals that I buy and sell. I've been offered retail returns, but I've just flipped that deal straight on to someone else. What a lot of people do is they actually, a lot of these buyers and sellers of these pallets of goods, what they're doing is most people are buying these and bringing these into a warehouse, and they're actually physically sorting through each pallet. They're sorting through and checking each product and then listing that product on eBay or Amazon and making a profit. Okay, that is just so time consuming, guys. So let's start with number one. Okay, now let's say you were starting a business and you were buying and selling liquidation pallets, store returns, and you bought a few pallets in. Yes, you can start making profit from day one. You can start listing these products online and you can make profit on day one. With the inventory flipping business, you're not necessarily going to make profit from day one because you've got to build a bit of a foundation. You've got to build your connections. It might take some time before you actually start getting into profit. So, in that sense, buying and selling liquidation returns, store returns, etc., you're probably going to get into profit quicker in that business, in that retailer returns business. If you are buying that physical stock and you are listing those products online, you can certainly start making profit within days. Okay. However, let's take this a few steps further. So, if you are getting involved in the liquidation pallets business, buying retailers and store returns, you are basically putting your money into that stock. You are paying for those goods, and then you're going to bring them in and start reselling those goods. So what you're doing in effect from immediately is you are tying up your money in some stock that you don't really know much about, because a lot of this stock you buy, these liquidation pallet returns, you don't get an actual, what they call a manifest. You don't get a list of actually what you're going to get. You can literally look at the pallet and see what you're going to get, but you're not going to see everything inside that pallet. There's no detailed list of what you're going to get. And a lot of it is unchecked returns. So, which means that whoever's selling you them are telling you, look, this is the deal, this is the price, but these pallets of goods are not checked. So you've got to check them yourselves. You don't know what you're getting involved in. You don't know what you're putting your money into. You don't know if a big percentage, and I know from speaking to people in these liquidation pallet groups, that you can get up to half of the goods that are just not saleable. They're just crap, basically. Broken, missing parts, just rubbish, basically. That's what you are risking when you put your money into liquidation pallets, store returns. You are getting involved, what I call blind, a lot of the time. You're buying stock blind because you don't know the full verse and chapter of what you're actually buying. It looks great. People fall in love with that stuff because they can see all these lovely retail boxes of things on a pallet and people fall in love with it. And then they pay for it and they get it back. They get it into their warehouse and they start looking through it all. And a lot of it, a percentage of what you're buying is crap and not resaleable. Whereas in the inventory flipping business, you are not investing any money in stock up front. Okay? You are not putting money down on any stock whatsoever, because what we're doing is we are getting offers coming in from companies, but we're not like committing ourselves and like throwing money at that stock. We're not doing that whatsoever. What we're doing is we are finding a buyer for that stock before we risk our money in buying that stock. We're not even risking our money because we are finding a buyer first for all of that stock before we actually commit and go ahead with that deal. So what we're doing is we are taking the risk out of the equation. What we're doing is literally we're only getting involved in that stock when we have got a buyer for that stock, and then we'll buy the stock and then move it on to that buyer and get paid. So we're not basically tying money up in stock, certainly long term, which a lot of people can do with these liquidation pallets. Can you imagine buying a truckload of these liquidation pallets? These retailers' returns, and you might have, several $1,000s or pounds tied up in that inventory. How long it will take you to actually turn that stock back into cash, and all the work involved to actually turn that stock back into cash. There's a lot of things involved which I'll go into. So number 2, or number 3 even, returns. You've got to go through, break down each pallet of stock and go through each product and check them before you start reselling them. Unless, of course, you're buying maybe like a big lot directly from a retailer that you can actually just flip straight on. That's fine. But what I see most people do is what most people are wanting to do with these store returns is they're wanting to resell them themselves online. So what they're having to do is they're having to transport those goods to a warehouse, and then they've got to physically check each product to make sure it's okay, make sure it works, or whatever product it is, make sure it's in saleable condition. Check it's like complete, and make sure there's nothing missing and that type of thing. That is so time consuming, guys. The great thing about our business of flipping inventory is that it's so time effective, because all the goods that we get involved in, and my students will tell you this, we basically don't touch any of the stock that we buy. It doesn't matter what it is. We never physically handle those goods. Never ever physically handle those goods. Don't matter what kind of goods they are or who we buy them from. We can buy, a pallet of goods right up to many truckloads of goods, and we will never physically handle those goods ourselves. Can you imagine, how beautiful that is, that you can move big quantities of goods and you don't have to physically check them. You don't have to physically check them like you do with these retailer returns goods. I mean, that is just... I don't know how anyone has the time to start going through these retail returns each week. That is a big time. That is a big lump of time in your day and week, having to check through these store returns that you buy. So, like I say, with the inventory flipping business, we flip these goods, but we never ever get involved in handling those goods. We never touch them whatsoever. Okay, next one. So, with the retailer returns, liquidation pallets goods, there's a very, very high chance, maybe not every time, but there's a very high chance that you're going to end up getting stuck with some of those goods that you buy, because you're not guaranteed to be able to sell them all on. Like, how do you know? When you put money into this stock and you bring it in, yeah, sure, you're gonna resell a lot of them online, but there's always going to be a percentage. There's always going to be like what I call the back end of that inventory that you buy and are holding onto, that you're going to literally get stuck with. Until you reach that point where you're probably like just going to get rid of it for a loss and make a loss on that stock. So if you imagine you're going to keep doing that, you're going to start building up a load of crap that you're just sat on, that you're stuck with, that you can't do anything with. You can't sell it online. You can't find a buyer for it. Why? Because you probably paid too much for it and you're trying to sell it for too high a price. And so with our type of business of flipping inventory, we never get stuck with anything whatsoever. Now, I've never got stuck with anything, ever. Why? Because I don't hold anything in my business. I don't hold any physical goods in my business. So I'm never ever in that situation where, I can't sleep at night because, I've got pallets and pallets of goods sitting in a warehouse that I can't get rid of. That's never going to happen with me because basically we don't get involved in deals that we haven't got a buyer for. We just walk away from those deals, or we just sit back until we do find a buyer. So we're never in a position where we're going to be, handling goods and then get stuck with those goods because we can't find a buyer, or maybe we bought them at the wrong price, and we're trying to achieve a price that is unrealistic. We just don't handle any goods, so we're never going to get stuck with any goods. Okay, that is a great thing to have in a business, that we haven't got that risk of ever getting stuck with those goods. There's nothing worse than actually, putting your hard-earned money into some inventory and then getting stuck with it. Like, trust me, I've done it years and years ago. I made all those mistakes. I got stuck with lots of stock and ended up having to sell it and at a loss and lost money on that stock. That was years ago when I was doing it the hard way. The new way, the easier way, is never handle any stock. So you're never going to get stuck with any stock. Okay, so moving on, guys. One sec. So, like I say, with the liquidation pallets, retailer returns, from what I've researched in a lot of these liquidation pallet groups is that there's a lack of true saleable merchandise. What you tend to get from these companies that you buy these liquidation pallets from is that a lot of the good stuff, and there is going to be good stuff in these liquidation pallets. A lot of these returns are going to be like perfect brand new products that are untouched. But the problem is that when these guys that get these directly from the retailers, they handle these big quantities of retailer returns and then they sell them, to the smaller traders. What they do before they sell them on is they cherry pick. They take out the good gear. They take out the really good stuff and sell that on themselves and get, obviously get good money for it. And then, a lot of these pallets that they build up, these retailer returns pallets that they sell off to these traders, consist of a lot of crap, basically. You basically, like I said before, sometimes half of the goods in that pallet of goods can be just crap, unsaleable rubbish that's broke, missing parts, incomplete, badly damaged. And what are you meant to do with that type of stuff? And that is, to me, that is a bit scammy in a way. When you are buying from companies in good faith, and then, you realise that you bought, like, a percentage of crap that you can't sell on. Like, is that fair? No, it's not fair whatsoever. With our business of flipping inventory, all our goods are basically brand new. All of them are brand new. We get offered inventory from lots of different companies, but it's all brand new goods. Perfect, with no quality issues. There's nothing substandard. There's nothing where there's parts missing. There's nothing that's damaged. There's nothing that's incomplete. We're buying brand new goods. Brand new, perfect quality goods all the time. That's what we get involved in 99.9% of the time. It's all perfect, brand new goods. So we don't have to worry about, things that might be wrong with those goods, issues. We can be safe in the knowledge that, we're dealing with a proper reputable company. And, those goods they've come directly from the factory at some point as perfect stock. And it's been sitting in their warehouse as perfect stock ever since. So it hasn't gone out to a retailer and then been returned back from the consumer. It's just stayed in that warehouse and never gone out of that warehouse to a retailer in the first place. So we're dealing with all saleable goods, guys. All brand new saleable goods. Directly from the source, like the manufacturer or the direct importer. Okay? Those types of companies. Another thing which is really interesting as well, which is really limiting, I would say, with the liquidation pallet business and, all these store returns that people buy, is that it's only one type of thing, and that is it's all retail products. All retail type products, nothing else. So, anyone in that industry of buying and reselling these liquidation pallets and store returns, it's only ever one thing. It's all retail goods. However, in our business, in the inventory flipping business, guys, we are not limited. We are never limited to what we can buy and sell. And that's what I love about our business, and what, the guys in my program love about my business, is that you are just not limited to anything. Meaning, you don't have to just focus on retail products. You can focus on any physical products across any industry. Like, I deal with, car parts, electrical components, fabrics, chemicals, bulk paper, metals, things that are basically classed as non-retail products. It's not your typical retail product that you go find in Walmart, for example. We are going out and finding things in industries that no one looks for. Very untapped industries whatsoever. We can get involved in some crazy stuff that are nothing to do with retail whatsoever. that's the great thing about our business of flipping inventory, is that you are not limited to what you can go out and find. You can go and look for anything in any industry, because there are buyers for everything across the world. You know, I've got guys looking for lots of different types of products that are not necessarily your typical retail type products. So that is a big thing for me, that if I was just focused on buying and selling liquidation pallets and store returns, I would only be within that retail category, you know, retailable products. But there's no limit to what we can go and find in our line of business, because at the end of the day, we can buy and sell anything we want. It doesn't have to be retail. It can be anything. Anything at all. As long as it's a physical product that someone has made, we can buy and sell that product, okay? So it can be things that are used in manufacturing, like parts, components, materials, you know, that type of thing. Like, you know, I can buy and flip things that go into food manufacturing. So like food ingredients, that type of thing. That's an example of what I'm talking about. So like things that are used in food manufacturing, it's not the finished retail product. It's just an inventory of something that goes into food manufacturing. Does that make sense? So it's not your actual finished retail product. So, you know, you've got to be... What I say to my guys that come into my program is, you've got to really open your eyes. You've got to really be open-minded. You've got to really open your mind up to what is possible in our business of, you know, buying and flipping stuff. You can buy and flip anything, guys. Anything. It doesn't have to be stuff that you see in Walmart or, you know, your retail shops. It doesn't have to be. So, like I say, you're not limited in our type of business of inventory flipping. Okay, guys, moving on. So, again, what I've noticed as well with the, you know, from hanging out in these liquidation pallet groups on Facebook, and I must say, you know, I do get into some mad conversations in these groups with some of these guys, but I asked a question before. I asked a question, actually, to a few of these groups. What kind of percentage off retail do you normally buy your, you know, store returns and liquidation pallets for? And they said, from the answers I got, it's basically anywhere from 15% to 40% off the retail prices. Wow. I was quite shocked, actually. I mean, I'm sure there's probably... I would say that you can probably get hold of some liquidation pallets at 10% of the retail price, meaning 90% off the retail price. However, they're probably, you know, really damaged or broken or, you know, bad stock, basically. It won't be like new stuff. But even like Amazon returns, I've been offered them. And I've been offered them at like 20% of the retail price. 20% of the retail price on returns. On returns. Guys, we are finding deals. We are buying and flipping deals and buying at 10% of the retail price or less. Meaning we're buying at 90% or more or over of the retail value. Okay, so, you know, if something costs $1, we're buying it for 10 cents or less. Okay, and that is on brand new goods. That's brand new goods. And that's because we're finding that inventory at the top of the ladder. We're not buying it down the line from where that inventory has gone down the line a few times, where it's been bought and sold a few times. We're buying it down the line. But what I think personally is that I don't think they're really that cheap, liquidation pallets, or these store returns. I don't think they're cheap whatsoever. You know, if I was going to get involved in that stuff, I'd want to be paying 10% or under of the retail value. But from the answers that I got in these liquidation groups, people are paying anywhere from 15% to 40% of the retail value. I mean, I think it's really, I don't think it's cheap. And think about it. When these guys are reselling these on eBay and Amazon or wherever, they're not going to get much profit margin out of that, you know? I don't think they're going to get much profit margin by doing it after all the fees that they've got to pay and their actual time that they're putting into, you know, handling those goods, checking those goods, listing them on eBay or their store, and then posting and packing, etc. It's very time consuming, never mind the profit margins. Whereas in our business of buying and flipping inventory, the good margins, the good profit margins, you know, we can get decent margins, mainly because we are moving stuff in bulk. You know, we're moving big quantities of goods, meaning, you know, we're getting a bigger profit on that deal. If you're buying and if you're buying and selling store returns or liquidation pallets, but you're listing one item at a time online on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Amazon or wherever, you're basically listing one at a time. You're selling one at a time. Yeah, a few a day or whatever. How long is it going to take to get some, you know, some decent money made from doing that? I just can't get my head around it at all. I'd rather, you know, if you bought 1,000 units of some store returns, how long's that going to take you to resell online? Whereas if I bought 1,000 units of something, I would just flip those 1,000 units straight on to a buyer. Done, finished, gone, deal done. So I'm going to get my profit margin is going to be based on 1,000 units that I've just sold on. Whereas, you know, if you're reselling 1,000 units online, how long is that going to take to get your profit margin? You know, with your fees that you have online, and you know, you're waiting for someone to click and buy it and everything else. Just very time consuming, and you know, to make a lot less profit, I would say. Next one. Yes, so with the you know, these guys that are buying and selling these retailer returns, liquidation pallets, there's a limit to how much they can actually buy, because they are actually physically buying that stock and then handling that stock. They've obviously got a budget of what they can afford. You know, if they, you know, you might have a budget of, I don't know, $5,000 to buy a truckload, $5,000 to $10,000 to buy a truckload of some store returns, pallets of store returns. And, you know, you've got a budget, basically. You've got a level that where you reach that level, you can't afford to buy any more. And you've got to, you know, you've got to wait till you've turned those pallets of goods back into cash so you can go and buy some more. With our business, the inventory flipping business, you don't need a budget, or there's no limit, there's no ceiling to the amount of goods that you can buy and flip straight on. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, how? I mean, let's say if I was offered a great deal and there was like 10 truckloads 20 truckloads, even 50 truckloads. Even if I didn't have the budget or the money to buy them, I could still do that deal, okay? I could still buy and flip any quantity I want, as big as you want, okay? There could be 1,000 truckloads, and if I didn't have the money to buy them, I could still buy and sell 1,000 truckloads, okay? I'm not going to go into detail of how that's done, but there's a methods of actually getting involved in any size deal that you want, okay? Any size deal that you want, even if you haven't got the money, even if you haven't got the budget to actually go and buy those goods. So that's the great thing about the inventory flipping business. There's no ceiling. There's no limit to what you can buy and sell in volume. You're not limited to what your budget is, basically. If you've got a budget and you buy and sell liquidation pallets, store returns, etc., that's your budget. That's all you can afford to buy, because you are actually physically buying those goods, bringing them into a storage. You've now got your budget tied up in those goods that you've now got to resell to turn back into cash. So you've got your budget again to go and buy some more goods. Whereas with our business, the inventory flipping business, you don't need a budget. It doesn't matter what size deal it is. It could be $1 million deal. It could be $1 million worth of goods, and you could still make that deal happen. You could still buy and sell that deal. If you've got $1,000 in the bank, or $5,000 in the bank, but you get offered a good inventory deal that might be $50,000 or pounds, you would walk away because you can't afford it. You'd have to walk away from that deal. Whereas with us in the inventory flipping business, we don't need to walk away from those deals because we can make that deal happen. Okay? There's ways of making that deal happen, and it's all done by using the process that we use by validating buyers. Okay? We find the buyers first, and then we can move forward with that deal. It's all based around the terms of that deal, the terms that we agree on that deal. It doesn't matter on the price of that deal, okay? It doesn't matter on the size or price of that deal. We can still get involved in that deal, even if we don't personally have the money to pay for the goods, even if we don't have the budget to pay for those goods, we can still make that deal happen. So, you know, if I only had 10 grand, but I was offered a deal that was 50 grand, I can still do that deal and make my profit on that deal, even though I haven't got the budget for that deal, okay? If you want to know how that's done, guys, you need to be coming into this program where I'm teaching these guys how to do it. And these guys are getting involved in deals that I'm sure plenty of these deals they could not afford to do. Okay, but they are making money from these deals, even though they haven't got the budget to do it. So, here we go. Yeah, another big one here, guys. This one is just like... Let's put it another way, okay? I've not physically held any goods for 15 years. At least 15 years, I've not handled any goods. Meaning that I don't actually have a warehouse. I don't have any pallets of goods sitting in a warehouse right now, this second. Nothing. But I still make money every week buying and flipping inventory. But I don't have any goods sitting in a warehouse. With the store returns and liquidation pallets business, these guys are buying in, you know, a truckload of store returns. They'll bring them into a warehouse, and then they're checking through these goods. What have they got that I haven't got? Storage costs. that is like a big rent that you've got to pay each month. It's almost like paying someone a salary each month for what you have to pay in storage costs. The amount of money I see people spending on storage costs, storing goods in a warehouse week after week after week. Like, I couldn't sleep at night having that expense. And, we move goods all year round, but we have zero storage costs. Never ever have any storage costs. Never will have any storage costs. Because what we're doing is, when we get offered that inventory and we find the buyer for that inventory and put that deal together, instead of bringing those goods into a warehouse and then, start paying storage costs, rent, what we're doing is we're just flipping it on straight to a buyer. So it doesn't even come into a warehouse. We're just moving the goods from A to B. What I call back to back. They're just back to back deals. We're moving the goods from our supplier, who's offered us the goods, straight to our buyer. Okay? From our supplier straight to our buyer. They're not coming into a warehouse first. Now, obviously, the guys that are mostly bringing pallets of goods into a warehouse are either, holding them because they either are, retailing those goods themselves, so they need somewhere to store those goods, or they've basically fallen in love with that inventory and they've done a deal on it and they've bought it, and then they bring it into a storage and then they start selling it to their customers. But I don't see the point of doing that, because think about it. When people work out their true profit on a deal, what is their true profit? Is their true profit the profit they've made, or is it the profit they've made after their storage costs? You see, I don't believe in, eating into the profit that we've made on deals. If you're going to buy and flip a deal, why have storage costs eating into your profit? You don't want that. You don't want anything eating into your profit. You need to keep your profit as high as you possibly can. Meaning, don't store the goods. Buy the goods and move them straight onto a buyer. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't know how to do that. A lot of people love bringing goods into a warehouse because they're falling in love. They get emotionally attached to those goods. And I see it with these liquidation pallet guys that are buying these store returns. You go on these Facebook groups, liquidation pallet Facebook groups, and I've just bought a truckload of some electrical returns, and and they put some pictures up, and I'm like, oh, lovely, yeah, but by the way, you're now paying storage costs on those. Did you know that? So when you make some profit, don't forget to knock off your storage costs, which can run into hundreds, even thousands, the longer you're sat on that inventory. So in our business, we never ever hold any goods in a warehouse. So we never ever have any storage costs, okay? How beautiful is that? That you don't have to think about having, storage rent to pay each month coming out of your bank. How beautiful is that? That you don't have that on your mind, that you've got to pay a rent each month to someone that's storing your goods. I never pay any storage costs whatsoever. Never ever. Okie dokie. Next one. So, kind of talked about this, but obviously these guys that love buying and selling these retailer returns goods, they basically have to physically handle those goods. Like, there's no other way around it. They've got to, once they've bought those goods, they've got to either send a truck to go and collect those goods and then bring them to their warehouse, or they get those goods delivered to a warehouse where they're storing those goods. So they are basically physically handling those goods, like physically touching those goods, because they've got to check them, because they're returns. So they've got to basically, if you can imagine a big pallet you stood next to a big pallet of goods, of mixed products, you've got to tear off the wrapping. Okay, you've got to rip the wrapping off like you're opening a present, and then you've got to take one product at a time and then look at it and check it, open the box, check through it, and then make a note. Yeah, that one's okay. And then on to the next one. Check the next one. And then you've got to go through all that pallet of boxes of products. And then you've got to go to the next pallet and do that. And that's something that you can't avoid. You've got to do, even if you don't do it, you've got to pay someone to do it. So there's no way around it. Either you physically do it yourself, or you pay someone to do it. Either way, it's costing you money and time. Who wants to do that? Who wants to physically handle goods? That's just, for me, that is just not time effective. Okay, it's not cost effective. In my office and flip goods, pallets or truckloads of goods that I'm never physically touching or actually seeing. Now, obviously, I see them on email, on photos. I might even get, a video clip of the goods as well. But I'm not physically stood right next to those goods in a warehouse and handling those goods physically. I'm just basically almost like virtually buying and selling those goods. Now, obviously, when I do a deal on those goods, yes, there's going to be a transport company going to collect those goods. But I'm not involved in that whatsoever. Normally, the buyer is doing that. So, we are almost virtually buying and flipping everything we deal with, because we're not physically handling those goods ourselves. How time effective is that, guys? That is just amazing. It's amazing that you can actually buy and flip quantities of goods, like pallets, even truckloads of goods, that you never touch or see, that you never physically touch or see. How brilliant is that concept, that you can buy and flip anything? I mean, I'll give you an example. Early last week, or the week before, I bought some goods in Italy, okay? Got all the details on email and, found a buyer for those goods, put a deal together, and the buyer of the goods is in Canada, and he is collecting the goods using his shipping company to collect the goods from Italy. Okay? Whilst I'm here, sat in my office in Harrogate in England, doing nothing apart from sat on my ass, doing that deal and making my profit. And I'm not involved in handling those goods whatsoever. From start to finish, I'm not handling those goods physically myself. How unbelievable is that you can do that kind of thing? Well, that's the new way of buying and flipping inventory. That is the new way. It's the cost-effective way. It's the time-effective way. We do things at speed without us having to physically handle those goods ourselves. We will just flip those goods and basically do it all online through email, WhatsApp, LinkedIn Messenger, Facebook Messenger, text, or whatever. All these online forms of communication, we are flipping deals. Basically, from having conversations with the companies that are offering us those goods and the buyers that want to buy those goods from us. So, in simple terms, we are finding an inventory of surplus goods from one company, and there's another company over there who wants to buy those goods. Now, that company over there, if only they knew where those goods were, they would buy them in a second from where those goods are. But they don't know where those goods are, do they? They know where those goods are through us. Through us, we're the middlemen, okay? Those buyers that we deal with, they are accessing these deals that we find. They're accessing those deals through us, okay? Virtually, through online communication. That's how it works, guys, okay? So between me and the seller and the buyer, I'm in the middle. There's the seller, there's the buyer, okay? The buyer here doesn't know who's got these goods here. The buyer doesn't know this seller. He doesn't know where to find these goods. He only knows about these goods through me here, the guy in the middle, the middleman. So, but he really wants those goods because he can buy them at a very highly discounted price. He's more than happy to do the deal with me because I'm the guy that's offered him those goods, okay? And he's going to get his profit, I'm going to get my profit, and the seller here is going to get paid for the goods, okay? So, we're nearing the end now, guys. So, running costs. Let's talk about running costs of running, a company that's buying these retailers' returns. Can you imagine the running costs involved in running that type of business? So basically, you've got cash. You need cash flow to actually buy those pallets of retailer returns. You got to put your money. You got to tie your money up in that inventory. So you need cash flow to actually physically buy the goods. You need cash flow to store the goods. You probably need cash flow to pay someone to help you check those goods. You need cash flow for, online fees that you've got to pay to eBay, Amazon, etc. And you need cash flow to probably ship those goods from where you bought them from. So, transport costs. And all that is before you've even paid yourself some wages each week. So there's a lot of cash flow. I mean, there's a lot of cash. There's no sort of cheap way around buying these store returns. Because either way, you've got to pay. You've got to buy those goods with your money. You've got to put your money down on those goods. And then, all that work you've got to put in before you start getting your money back on those goods. Bringing them in, sorting through it, checking each product, listing each product on eBay or Amazon or Facebook Marketplace. So time consuming and, at the same time, not cost effective whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, you can't, once you've got your money tied up in that stock, you've just got to focus on that stock until you've sold it all. Whereas with our industry, we've got no running costs whatsoever. We haven't got money tied up in pallets of inventory. We haven't got money to lay out for storage costs. We haven't got money to pay employees. We are basically running a very, very streamlined business, okay? Very, very streamlined, that you can run from home with no high costs, and you're not sat waiting to turn that inventory back into cash like you would have to do when you're buying store returns or liquidation pallets. You've got to work your ass off to turn it all back into cash before you can actually go ahead and buy some more pallets of goods, you know. But we can have loads of different deals going on at once and not worry about having the cash flow whatsoever. You don't have to worry about having the cash flow if you've got lots and lots of deals that you're working on or deals that you've got to pay for, because the way we do this with our buyers, we have specific terms that we set up. So we never ever have any issues with, oh, I haven't got the money to buy that stock. Oh, I better save that bit of money so it covers my storage costs. And, oh no, I'm sitting on this stock because, I bought it and I've got my money tied up in it and I've got to focus on that stock and turn it back into cash. Guys, that is it basically, So, as far as I can see, and, a lot of people in the liquidation pallet business and store returns business hardly even know about our business of buying and flipping inventory. They don't know this way of doing things. They only know their way of doing things, where they are physically handling goods and tying money up in goods and, selling them one at a time online and, managing their cash flow. And, it's just so time consuming, I think. For our business, even if you're not doing a deal each day, it doesn't matter, because you're not losing money, okay? You haven't got those daily or weekly expenses to worry about. You're not lying in bed thinking, shit, I've got this and that to pay for and that to pay for. You haven't. Or I've got that stock, I've got pallets of that in a warehouse I need to get rid of, and what am I going to do with that pallet? And I go to bed at night, guys, with nothing on my mind apart from looking forward to doing the next deal, okay? I don't go to bed thinking or worrying about not having the budget to buy goods, not having the cash flow to buy goods, not having, not having a warehouse full of goods that I need to get rid of to turn back into cash. I'm not worried about having to go and check through goods that I buy. And it's all saleable, what we buy and sell. It's not crap. So, as far as I can see, by far, our industry of just buying and flipping is way, way, way better and more profitable and more time effective and more cost effective and just way easier than the liquidation pallet industry, which is huge. That is a really big, saturated industry that like thousands and thousands of people are involved in. They love just buying pallets of goods and bringing them into a storage and checking each box and listing each product online. And like, oh my God, I could not do that. It's just so time consuming for a lot of effort for little money. That's what it basically is. It's a lot of effort for not a lot of money. Okay? Now, disclaimer, yes, people are making money in that business, but the ones that are mainly making the money in that business are the guys that are higher up the ladder, the guys that are at the top of the ladder who are buying, container loads of goods from the retailers directly, from Walmart, from Amazon. Those guys at the top of the ladder who are buying directly from these big retailers. And then what they're doing is they're moving those, a few pallets here and a few pallets there to their massive network of, liquidation pallet buyers and sellers in the US or, in UK or Europe. And that's basically, they're the guys that are probably making the good money out of it. But all these little fish that are getting all the little, what I call crumbs, the crumbs, basically. That's what they're getting. They're just getting the crumbs. They're getting these pallets. You know, they're buying it down the line once or twice, and they're getting pallets that are 50% crap, not even saleable. A lot of hard work, and a lot of them, from what I'm seeing in these groups, are losing money all the time on deals. They're just losing money. So guys, listen, if this resonates with you and you're thinking, actually, I want to do this the easier way. I want to do things the easier way, where I can just sit on my computer and find stock and then flip that deal straight onto someone without ever handling any stock, without tying any money up in stock, without worrying that you haven't got enough money to buy the stock. You can get involved in any size deal that you want, without being restricted on what type of goods you can go and find. As I say, if you remember, with the liquidation pallets, it's all retail goods. With our industry, we can go and find anything we want. We can buy and sell anything we want across any industry whatsoever. It doesn't have to be retail products. So very, it's another level completely, the business that we're involved in. The sky's the limit, guys. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link into the comments and above the video where you can book a call with me and we can see if you're a good fit to come into my program. And basically, I will hold you by the hand and show you exactly how to get started in this business, and do things in a very, very time-effective way, cost-effective way, no-risk way. And this is basically the future of buying and flipping goods without that worry of having to, physically handle goods and hold goods, and tie money up in goods. You don't have to do any of that, guys. Okay, so all you have to do is just click the link and book a 30-minute strategy call with me, and I'll give you a call. We'll have a chat, and we'll see if we can get you started. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will be back again very, very soon. I wish you all the very, very best, guys. See you soon. And yeah, by the way, if you've got any questions, just put them in the comments and I will answer them later. Take care.